Ladies and gentlemen, let me switch to English to the last part of my speech. This brings me to my second point. We cannot accept the UK's attempt to cherry-pick parts of our single market. During its 47 years of membership, the UK built up a strong position in the EU market in a number of strategic areas: financial services, businesses and legal services, and also a regulation and certification hub and a major entry point in the EU single market. In great part, this was made possible by the fact that the UK was an EU member state within the single market. As it prepares to leave the single market and to leave the customs union, we must ask ourselves whether it is really in the EU interest for the UK to retain such a prominent position. Do we really want to consolidate the UK's position as a certification hub for the EU, knowing that it already controls some 15–20% of the EU certification market? Do we really want to take a risk with rules of origin that would allow the UK to become a manufacturing hub for the EU by allowing it to assemble materials and goods sourced all over the world and export them to the single market as British goods, tariff and quota-free? Do we really want the UK to remain a centre for commercial litigation for the EU when we could attract these services here? Ladies and gentlemen, when considering our options, we need to look beyond the short-term adaptation costs to our long-term economic interests. Even more so in the context of ensuring Europe's economic recovery after the coronavirus crisis. The United Kingdom insists it is asking for nothing more than well-established precedents. But the truth is that in many areas it is demanding a lot more than Canada, Japan or any of our other FTA partners. In many areas it is looking to maintain, in fact, the benefits of being a member state without the constraints. It is looking to pick and choose the most attractive element of the single market without the obligations. For example, the UK demands to maintain almost complete freedom of movement for short-term stays for UK service providers. It demands to maintain a system for the recognition of professional qualifications that is as complete and broad as the one we have in the European Union. It demands to have its customs rules and procedures recognized as equivalent while refusing to commit to the necessary compliance check and monitoring or alignment to EU rules when necessary. It demands to be able to co-decide with the Union on decisions relating to the withdrawal of equivalences for financial services when they know these are and these must remain and will remain our own autonomous decisions. Dear President, ladies and gentlemen, we cannot allow and we will not allow this cherry-picking. For one, the United Kingdom chooses to become a third country, it cannot have the best of both worlds. For another, this is simply not in the overall long-term political and economic interest of the European Union. And finally, there is no automatic entitlement to benefits given by the EU under previous FTAs. Every agreement we have with Canada, South Korea or Japan has been tailor-made to the partner with which we negotiated. My third point, and last one, is that however good this agreement we reach with the UK, our trade relationship will never be as fluid as it is today. And we need to accept this point and prepare for it. The UK has chosen to leave the single market to leave the customs union, the VAT and excise duty area, and all the EU's international agreements. This choice, its choice, not our choice, have automatic mechanical consequences as of the 1st of January next year, even if we reach a good agreement with the UK. Businesses in the EU and in the UK must prepare for these changes. Let me give you some examples of what will happen on the 1st of January 2021. Whatever the outcome of the negotiation, whatever, UK firms will lose the benefit of the financial service passports. As a third country, the UK will no longer be able to grant marketing authorizations for pharmaceutical or type approvals for cars for the EU market. There will be custom formalities for all goods entering the EU customs territory. All these are mechanical consequences of leaving the single market and the customs union. No FTA, no matter how ambitious, can change this. Therefore, it is the responsibility of each of us, in particular businesses and public administrations, to prepare. I know that your committee is reflecting on initiatives to raise awareness on the need to prepare, and I am grateful for this. The Commission, too, will be stepping up its readiness actions. It has already published a series of notices, 100, to help. This should be mandatory reading for every industry stakeholder exposed to the United Kingdom, and we would be grateful if you could share them with your partners. Ladies and gentlemen, we want, once again, a very ambitious economic partnership, but it must reflect the long-term economic and political interests of the EU. This is not a dogmatic or technocratic position. Simply, we will never compromise on our European values, on our economic and trade interests to the benefit of the British economy. Sometimes I hear people in the UK public debate say that the EU has unreasonable positions. But they are only unreasonable for those who refuse to accept that Brexit has negative consequences. They are only unreasonable if your starting point is that the EU should not have the sovereign power to define its own conditions for giving access to its own market. Our position has been known for years. It was already set out in the European Council guidelines of 2017. And our negotiation mandate has been carefully elaborated on this basis to protect our interests, to protect our greatest achievements, in particular the single market, and to limit the economic damage that Brexit inflicts on EU businesses and consumers. And this mandate is sufficiently flexible to find compromises with the UK. During the past negotiation round, the UK must have taken note of the EU's willingness to search for compromises. What we now need to make progress are clear and concrete signals that the UK too is open to work on an agreement. There is no need to change or adjust the EU mandate. We can find the necessary compromises on the condition that the UK changes its approach and accepts a proper balance of rights, benefits, obligations and legally binding constraints based on the respect of the agreed political declaration of last October. That declaration is the only valid starting point for the negotiation. In addition, the UK must demonstrate that it is making real tangible progress on implementing the withdrawal agreement in all its dimensions, in particular on citizen rights, and we are on the same responsibility on our side, and on the correct and effective implementation of the protocol on Ireland and Northern Ireland. In this respect, the UK Common Paper published in May is useful to help focus on what remains to be done, but there are still a lot of questions on which the UK needs to provide detailed answers if we want to move from aspirations to operation in line with the protocol, which is a legally binding text. And together with the Vice President of the Commission, Maros Sefcovic, we will discuss these matters this Friday with Michael Gove, the British Minister, in the Joint Committee with the UK. Only a precise and rigorous implementation of the withdrawal agreement can create the confidence we need to build our future partnership. And Member States made that very clear in the mandate given to the Commission. So, Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, there are still major hurdles ahead of us. I hope that the high-level discussions with Prime Minister Johnson that will take place this month will provide a new political impetus to our talks. With determination on both sides and preparation for the business community, I am convinced that we can overcome the difficulties and build an unprecedented partnership between the EU and the UK for the long term in front of us. Thank you very much for your attention.